It is Monday, November 11th, and tomorrow I get my tongue tie released. And I ain't gonna lie to you guys, I'm a little nervous about it. Not because I don't think I won't recover or because it will be painful. I'm sure I'll be fine in all those ways. But the reason I am nervous is because I'm curious about how it's going to change how I speak. Am I going to struggle to speak? Am I going to have to, is there going to be a little bit of a relearning about how to use my tongue? Because for a large part of my life, I have been very insecure about how I speak because of the tongue tie, you know, and I've worked really hard to eliminate lisps and a lot of the struggles that most people with tongue ties have, to the point where most people can't even tell that I'm tongue tied. And I'm curious to see, all right, once this is released, what's going to happen to all that effort that I put into speaking the way that I do now? Is there going to have to be a relearning? Will the sound of my voice change? I doubt that that's going to change, but at least how I pronounce words. But really where I'm most interested to see where it's going to make the difference is in my Spanish speaking, because I'm 100% fluent in Spanish. My parents are immigrants from El Salvador. And my whole life, even though I don't have an accent, like an English accent when I speak Spanish, it sounds like I do because I can't roll my R's. In Spanish, the rolling R sound is such a peculiar and central feature of the language that if you can't do it, it just the language just doesn't sound right. And usually it's people who aren't native Spanish speakers that struggle with inserting that rolling R. You know, you can tell, oh, that person is not a native speaker because they're not rolling their R's as often or when they should. And for me, I just can't roll the R, even when I know I should be doing it. It's not even. You can see the microphone clipping here. Sorry you guys had to hear that. The doctor hasn't told me anything about my tongue tie, what to expect for recovery, how I'm going to speak after. When I went in for my appointment, I went in to have my wisdom teeth removed, and then I asked if I could have my tongue tie released while I was under, and they said they could do that. And for me, the big thing about this whole surgery is the tongue tie release, but for the doctor, it's removing the wisdom teeth. And it seems that like every step of the way, the tongue tie release has been no big deal to the doc. For example, when I called in, I specifically said, I want my tongue tie released. I come in, doctor sees me, and he's about to let me on. I'm like, hey, you haven't even looked at my tongue. And he goes, oh yeah, I guess we can do that. And then I pushed him and he goes, first, fine, I can take a look at it. And then when I called in to make my appointment, they're like, all right, we got you scheduled for removing your wisdom teeth. And I said, it's also for a releasing of the tongue tie. And then the person goes, oh yeah, you're right. And the tongue tie too. It seems that the tongue tie is not a big deal to the doctor or to the clinic, it's the teeth. And I get it. I know some of you guys will be like, that's the big deal. And I know, I get it. Taking those teeth out is a much more complicated and dangerous procedure, especially because I am over the age of 35 and that's what the doctor is focusing on. But for me, as an individual who has lived with tongue tie his whole life, and also with the wisdom teeth, the tongue tie has impacted my life a whole lot more than those wisdom teeth. If the wisdom teeth weren't crowding the back of my mouth and they weren't so hard to brush and probably have cavities, they do have cavities now because I can't brush them, I just leave them there. But this tongue tie has always bothered me because it does make it hard to speak every weekend. And the faster I speak, the harder it is to control my tongue. It's almost like running and there's a rope that is tied between both of your legs. And as long as your stride doesn't go further than the length of that rope, you won't fall. That's a little bit like what it's like talking with a tongue tie. I don't know if you caught it right there. My tongue was almost slipping there. Both my kids were born with tongue tie. Isa, when he was born, I caught him, and the moment he started crying in my arms, I looked inside the little mouth and I was like, this little boy is tongue tied. And he struggled to latch onto the breast. The doctor in the delivery room took a look at his mouth and said, no, he's fine. Then the lactation nurse came and said, oh no, he's fine. But because I have one, I knew, no, this is not fine. And after a week of this child just not being able to latch and just biting down on his mom's breast, I finally said, all right, let's get a second opinion. So we took him to the pediatrician, and of course he said, oh no, this is tongue tie. And he released it, and the week later, he latched immediately. And when our second boy was born, Mateo, again, I caught him too, and immediately he starts crying in my arms, and I look right into his mouth, and again, I see a tongue tie. And this time we didn't ask anyone in the room. We just immediately scheduled an appointment, and a day later we had his, or either a day or 2 days later, we had his tongue tie addressed, and he latched immediately, and we had a much easier journey because we handled it sooner than later. And it's crazy because our firstborn, we waited almost a week. I could be wrong about that. It might have been 2 weeks. And even though that might not sound like a lot, that's for a child that was just born, 2 weeks is enough to create bad habits that are hard to unlearn. It took him a while to learn how to use his tongue again after we snipped it. But with Mateo, because we did it as soon as he was born, we really didn't have that issue. I've been posting pretty regularly here on YouTube, but for my next video, it probably won't come for another two weeks, maybe 3, depending on how the healing goes. So the next video that you will see from me will be an update of how this surgery goes. So do me a favor and comment anything, like this video and subscribe and turn on that notification bell so that you can hear the before and after of my surgery, and that you can see my experience. All right, friends, see you in the next one.